I'm Randy Cassingham, founder, publisher, and head phone call ignorer at thisistrue.com, the longest running entertainment newsletter on the internet. I'm going to start by pointing out my shirt. I usually use superimpositions to call attention to them, but this one's just really cool. I'm going to let you guess where I got this shirt. I know it's a really difficult question, but here you go. Yes, it's a bit crooked, such is the life with handcrafted items at a port, but I think it's cool. It's all hand stitched, and I think that's gorgeous. Anyway, speaking of ports, I was sorting through all the questions to see, what I need to talk about this week. And it was very clear as I sorted through questions, there are a lot of questions about shipboard life. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle a few of those real quick. And, I'm going to try not to make this about being on the ship, but that's obviously a lot of the questions are about that. A little bit different today. Instead of recording late at night, I am recording early in the morning. It's 6:30 here. I woke up about 4. We've been doing some time changes lately, and whatever. Okay, I'll get up. So I'm going to go ahead and whip out a video before maybe go back for a nap. I can also see my door is fluttering as we're moving here. We are underway. We've been underway for a couple of days. We're moving from Palau back to Indonesia. So instead of being sleepy at night, I'm sleepy in the morning because I just got up. Okay, let's see. Brett in Sydney, Australia. Who made the graphic of the This Is True graphic at the end of the AMA videos? Yeah, it's not Shipboard Life, but hold on a second. I have no idea. I had it done in Fiverr a few years ago and was going to use it for a different video series and never got around to using it because the last video series was vertical format because I was doing TikTok and TikTok pissed me off, so I said screw this and I'm not going to make those videos anymore. But his second question is, do you have a list published and accessible of the likely places on your three-year mission to go around the Earth? And I won't hesitate to point out that once we finish the first circumnavigation of the planet, our plan is to stay on the ship and do it again. So is there a list of the likely places? Yes, they call that the itinerary. You can get that from the company's website. However, it's basically an aspirational list. As they gain information and experience, they're finding some of the things that they planned on doing can't be done. For instance, even our next big country after Indonesia is Australia. Hey, maybe we'll connect while we're there. And they're finding out that Australia has a lot of regulations and issues. Not that it's a difficult country, but they have some difficult situations. Like, as you well know, there are a lot of problems with animals. So somebody brings a few rabbits to Australia, and all of a sudden Australia is exploding with rabbits that are wreaking havoc on the environment. So they have a lot of laws in place. We have cats on board. How do we deal with that? And so they're working their way through figuring out how to come to Australia with cats on board. Is Australia going to let us come? And the answer seems to be yes. But what will we have to do with the cats? And what is that going to cost? And who's going to pay for that cost? And the bottom line seems to be that the cat owners are going to pay for any extra costs. And I can tell the ship's waking up. There's more noise, but I've gone back to my original mic location where I put it last week. Did not work as well, so and it ended up with more noise. So that's just a taste of the itinerary. We know that some things are going to be impossible. China has said, no, you can't come because your ship is too old, and they want more modern ships, and I'm not sure exactly what's behind those laws. One of the things we can't do is plug into shore power. We have to run the generators to keep the ship powered. Newer ships can plug into shore power and then therefore shut down their generators, which tend to pollute more than onshore massive generator, so or power plant. So yeah, there's little things that happen here and there, and so the itinerary is continuously adjusted, and that's part of what we need to roll with. We are pioneering a very new lifestyle and a very new business type, and that's going to continue to happen. So yes, there's an itinerary. No, it's not guaranteed, and almost certain. In fact, I think it's 100% certain to change. They can update it and put a new one up there, and I guarantee that one will change. So, am I worried about that? No. I'm here for the voyage, for the adventure, and I want to see places. I want to see the world, but I'm not completely tied to seeing Saipan this time around. Hopefully we'll get to it at some point, but looks like we're not going to get to it this year. So that's part of the adventure of being here, and I'm not worried about it, and people who are worried about it are less likely to be happy here, quite frankly. So I'm going to move on to Stephanie in Arizona. I love traveling, though maybe not as much as you do. Usually near the end of a trip, I do get a feeling of being ready to be done and be home. Does having your home follow you, in essence, on your travels mitigate that kind of feeling? After all, you are sleeping in your own bed most nights, even if you are in a different city every week. The best of both worlds? I think so. I absolutely did not love traveling. I loved seeing new places. I hated traveling. I hated the concept of getting on an airplane and flying and schlepping all the luggage and doing all the transfers and interrupting my schedule and finding a place to work. And because I generally work even when I travel. It's one of the pros and cons of this job. The con is I have to do newsletter every single week. The pro is I can do it anywhere, and it doesn't really matter. So this is the best of both worlds in the sense that I've got my office that's coming with me. Our home is coming with me. There's an absolute message in the slogan on the residentialcruising.com website, which is travel the world, go home every night. Yeah, that's the thing. I get to go home every night. I get to go home in the evening. I get to go home in the afternoon if I want. I can just get up and go to work. I can, hey, look, we're in a cool part. I can go out and visit a neat city. I can shop in a very cool grocery store. Kit and I both go to grocery stores in just about every port just to see what they're selling there. And for instance, we were in Yap, Micronesia, tiny little place, especially the town we were in was super small. I mean, we basically got off the ship and walked to town because it was so close, and it was tiny, tiny, tiny. And we went to a grocery store, and I was blown away by one of the things I saw in that grocery store, and that's the classic brand of sriracha sauce that I drove by that plant in my commute to JPL when I lived in California. It's the brand of sriracha sauce. I'll put a picture of the bottle on here. You'll recognize this bottle. They had that in the app, and it blew me away. And I thought it was so cool. In fact, I'll dig up the picture that I took in the grocery store of it on the shelf. And yes, it's being sold in US dollars because that's Yap's official currency. So, you figure you go to someplace completely obscure like Yap, Micronesia. I bet you most of you have never heard of it. And yet there's the familiar there in addition to the foreign, the alien type of thing that you don't normally see at your home. So it's part of travel and finding out how the world lives, and it's interesting to me to see things like that. So yes, I hate traveling, but I love this kind of travel. It is the best of both worlds, absolutely. And Jim in Oklahoma, what has surprised you the most about living full-time on a residential cruise ship? What, if anything, do you miss about living in one place? One of the most surprising is, I talk about the community here a lot, and that's really important to me and to most of the people here is the community. What surprises me in a slightly negative way is some people really have very high expectations. And one of Kit's mantras is expectations kill. And I think the people who are most unhappy here, and there's not very many of them, but are the people who have these very certain expectations. They are absolutely crushed if we don't go to the Falkland Islands, when the truth of the matter is probably most of the cruise ship attempts to go to the Falkland Islands fail because you can't dock there, so you have to tender in, which means a little boat that the ship carries. And so the ship docks off the island, and then you get on a boat and tender in. The problem is the seas around the Falklands are pretty rough most of the time. They're too rough to tender into the islands. So the chances of actually landing your feet on Falkland Islands are worse than they are better. There's more than a 50% chance that you're not going to be able to do it. And if you tie your entire experience to, hey, this is on my bucket list, I've got to go to the Falkland Islands, you're probably going to fail at that. And we did fail at that. When we were down in South America, we tried to go to the Falkland Islands, and the captain looked at the weather and said, it's not safe. We cannot make it. We're not going to go. And some people were absolutely crushed. Kit and I, well, we'll get it the next time around. And if you're only there for one segment or some brief period of time, you can't wait for that next segment because you're not going to be here. But we saw amazing things in South America. We went through the Chilean fjords, which were incredible. It's like going to Glacier Bay in Alaska, except that you get to take your time. And there's multiple examples of these fjords, and we went in and out of multiple fjords and saw the glaciers coming down to the ocean, and it was incredible. And that was not really part of our initial itinerary. And I would, I'd rather go back to the Chilean fjords than Falkland Islands, but what we're going to do instead is we're going to do both. we are the next thing that they put on the itinerary after our first one was to go back to South America and take our time, have a lot of built-in opportunities in the itinerary to try a couple of times to go to Falklands, to try a couple of times to go down to Antarctica, which we couldn't do the first time. So, yeah, if you can kind of bide your time and relax and wait and make this a lifestyle instead of a narrow segment of your life and hit all these various bucket list items, you're going to be so much happier. And also part of that, early on in our itinerary that we had to cut out because the ship was in Belfast too long, is that we miss Scandinavia. So we've got a lot of Scandinavia built in to the next part of the itinerary that they added. So, if you can roll with it, you're going to love it. And the other half of Jim's question is, what, if anything, do you miss about living in one place? Getting deliveries. We can ship stuff to the company headquarters in Florida, and they will gather it together until they have a container load and ship an entire container, so it's cost effective, and get it to us at some port. But when you want a new mattress pad or a mattress topper to make your bed more comfortable, you can do that. You might get it in 2 or 4 or 5 months by that method. So once in a while we get to a port that there's a Costco of all things, and so when we got to Japan, we went to Costco, and I got a mattress pad, and actually I got that one in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, because they have a Costco there too. So it seems shallow to think the thing I miss is shopping, but it's nice to be able to get a few things sometimes. Kit and I take a lot of vitamins and supplements, and in the U.S. it's really easy. You go to Vitamin College or Natural Grocers, you can get what you want, and if you can't, you order from Amazon and you get any number of varieties of any vitamin you want. You go into Micronesia, you're not going to find vitamins, not easily. So we're the weird thing we miss is shopping. Seems really shallow, but that's the truth. I think that wraps it up for now. A little bit more about ship life for you. I'm Randy Cassingham. Do the subscribe and like thing. It does help. And I'll talk at you later.